Hello everyone, this is Robert and welcome to the test assembly video for Drain Bamage. In this video I'm going to be basically putting the drive and the guts together and kind of getting a little bit of an idea of test fit, and that'll give me an idea of how much space there is for the electronics and what other custom pieces I need to make to hold everything together. So feel free to use the chapter, skip around, and let's get started. So first off, once again, thank you PCBWay for sponsoring this project. They did all the machining for the shell, which I couldn't have done this project without the S7 shell, so pretty interesting. If your design skills outmatch your manufacturing skills, you might want to check out someone like PCBWay, link down below. So the scope of this video, what I want to accomplish by the end of this video is have the final configuration of the internal drive guts fully assembled. So that means greasing the gearboxes, installing all the bearings, and basically just building this whole thing out so I can drop it inside the shell and see how that fits and see what else needs to be made. So let's go ahead and start with that. I'll start with greasing the P60 planetary gearboxes. So I've got my 3D printed pieces off of the 3D printer, and I have the brass inserts inserted. There's 4 per. I have the big one that kind of holds everything together, and then the other 3 that hold the bearing blocks. So those are good to go for right now. So let's start with greasing the gearboxes. These are Bamage P61S gearboxes, and they come ungreased, and you can listen. See how that sounds? It should be greased, and they say this in the instructions. So I am using, what is this? Valvoline's full synthetic grease. I got this at the hardware store a long time ago, and this is the same stuff that is in Copperhead. All of Copperhead's bearings are packed with this, and I've been using this for years, and so far it has worked out. I haven't had any issues. I've used about that much of it. I'll have a link down below because links are fantastic. So yeah, just go ahead and pack these, and I'm going to do this as one of those time-lapsey things so I can listen to music in the background. Like many things in life, there isn't necessarily a right way and a wrong way. There's kind of this continuum of many right ways and many wrong ways, and so I'm just trying to show you how I do it and what's been successful for me. I've never had a gearbox fail, and this is also the same method that we've done with Copperhead. The bearings on Copperhead were done the same way with the same grease, so this has worked out for me. Your mileage might vary. Generally, what we're trying to do is make sure that there's no excessive metal-on-metal contact or wear. That's really all you're doing. When you heard that sound earlier of the gearbox running, that is metal-on-metal wear. We're trying to minimize that as much as possible. Now, if you were to just take and pack this thing full to the brim with grease, you would add a lot of excess resistance, and that would cause you to be putting more power into kind of moving everything around, and you would lose a lot of power into heat and just having, you know, the grease packed in there too tight. So we're trying to do just enough, but not too much. So, you know, if someone's going to ask in the comments, how much grease should I put in there? Don't put in too much, but don't put in too little. It's going to be somewhere in the middle of that. So all we're trying to do is spoon it in there, get it on every surface so that when we spin the gears around, every surface is coated, but we don't have too much in there that is going to be restricting movement and adding too much friction. So that didn't take very long. We've got the grease inside of here, and everything moves nice and smooth. And now if you listen, there should be a fair amount of resistance, not a lot, but you know, some amount of resistance, certainly more than when you started with. I might go back in here and just look and see how everything's working inside of there, but generally what you're trying to do is make sure that every metal surface is touching grease against the other metal surface. You don't want any uncoated metal to metal contact, if that makes sense. So what I can probably do here, let's use this little backer ring. I was hoping I could get that front face off, maybe? Yeah. Yeah, and if you're using one of these, you're gonna, you know, have to take these apart quite a bit, so not a big deal. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like inside. Not bad. just enough grease to kind of cover everything. So put that back together, and that is one down, and we'll do the other one. Come on, you got it. There we go. Nice. So here's a little free pro tip for you. If you're using a planetary gearbox, learn how to take it apart. Get comfortable with disassembling it and putting it back together and having it work the exact same way, because you're going to need to know how to do this, and it's much better to learn in the comfort of your own home on your workbench than at a competition when you only have, 30 minutes to get back into the arena. So don't be scared of taking apart a planetary gearbox and putting it back together. This is the time to dump out all the gears and figure out how to put it back together. You're gonna need to know how to do this, so might as well learn it now. So I wanted to take this opportunity to show you the old and the new pieces. This is the old drive. This is the outside drive from Crippling Depression. You can see that's how big it is versus the new one. So yeah, these are comparable parts. Same bearing size, same shaft size. The wheel size is smaller. This is the wheel on Crippling Depression, and this is the wheel on Drain Bamage. So at 3 7/8 down to a 3-inch. So yeah, kind of interesting. So let's put the rest of the drive pods together. So if you've watched any of my videos on Crippling Depression, this assembly is going to be largely the same. It's the same thing, the parts are just a little bit smaller. And fun fact, I'm actually using a lot of components from the original Crippling Depression drive pods. The bearings, the shafts, the sprockets, all of those, I just took Crippling Depression, opened it up, and took those out. So a lot of these things actually have, like 5 competitions worth of life in them. So if you design something well enough, you really don't have to worry about going through a ton of spare components. I only have like 1 set of bearings for the internal drive on Crippling Depression since day 1. And I've used them for all the competitions, never had to replace them, and now they're going into Drain Bamage, so kind of interesting stuff. The one thing that I did want to talk about here is the importance of test fitting. I've realized that I test fit things a lot more than other builders. I've definitely, seen other builders do stuff and talked with them, and I do a tremendous amount of test fitting. Every time I get a new part off the printer, I'll fully assemble everything, test it out, disassemble it. I think these drive pods have been put together and taken apart like a dozen times at this point, and you learn a lot through this test assembly. One, I think I kind of like putting stuff together and taking it apart. But secondly, you learn a lot about the serviceability. How easy is it to take something apart? How easy is it to put something back together? I'll make little notes about, ooh, this, rubs a little bit, this is too close, this needs to be changed. But also you kind of develop a little bit of muscle memory to where you just kind of know how things are put together and taken apart. Like what I said in the earlier section about gearboxes, you just kind of need to know how all this stuff gets taken apart and put back together, because when you're at a competition, you might need to fully disassemble the bot, fix something, and put it back together, and you might only have a half an hour. So you got to be pretty familiar with this process. So it doesn't hurt to practice this a little bit. Okay, so I got the first one together, just kind of figuring out all the spacers, where everything goes. Everything fit okay. Unfortunately, the keys don't fit. It seems like the P61s have changed from an 1/8-inch keyway to a 3mm keyway, which is fantastic because everything else on it is Imperial. 1/2-inch shaft, 3mm keyway. Makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm gonna put the other one together, but yeah, this looks pretty good. The more parts you have in an assembly, the more problems can arise. So like I said earlier, the keys ended up being the wrong size because the gearbox has changed. There's always going to be little things like that, and the more parts you have, the more problems are going to arise. So hence doing a test assembly, and that's what this video is all about. So I've got enough time, I'll get some keys, no big deal, that'll be easy to fix. Also, these gearboxes have to completely come apart because this isn't even the final gearbox. There's some changes that still need to be made. They need to be printed out of most likely TPU. Still haven't fully decided. I feel like TPU might be a little bit too compliant, might be too squishy, but I think I can go with some of the higher durometer TPUs and that might work out. But regardless, this is what the test assembly is for. This is the meat of the video. You just got to put stuff together, take it apart, see how everything fits, see how it runs. Do this in the beginning. Don't save the assembly till the very end, the night before the competition. Okay, so I've got both of these built and I've got the wires in the right place. So now I'm going to put the rear bearing supports. I don't have any new ones of these. I'm just using the old ones, but it's just for test fit. So let's get those on there. So here's the thing about editing video. A lot of times you have the footage, but don't have it really edited in the video yet. And I'm doing this video and I realize I don't really have any audio for this. I don't have anything to explain or talk about. I'm putting 6 screws onto the back of it for the bearing supports. There you go. I will talk about something though while this beautiful footage is playing. I released these videos out of order. In the conclusion of this video, I talk about how I have a really cool video coming up next week. That's the lobotomizer. That video is already out. That one's already been out for a couple weeks now. So I released these completely out of order. The lobotomizer was supposed to come next, this was supposed to come first, but because this video wasn't edited yet, I waited on this one until now, and the lobotomizer is already edited, so yeah, I kind of screwed up there. But you can feel free, go back and watch the lobotomizer over and over. Put it on a playlist, you know, put it on loop when you sleep. I don't care. That's pretty cool. But anyway, here is the footage of me putting 6 screws into these parts. So here it is all together, and this is really fun. This slides really well, everything lines up. So now we just need to put this into the S7 shell and see how it fits. All right, here's the moment of truth. Oh yeah, that fits great. So yeah, that should work out quite nice. So let's see, we've got a couple ESCs here. So this will kind of cram in like that. This one will cram in over here. It's going to be tight, but that's the whole point of this, is it's meant to be pretty tight. Okay, and then battery sits in the middle. Ew, the switches are, that's interesting. Note to self, install this ahead of time. Technically, that fits. I think it's probably better if the battery was like that. Yeah, that fits a lot better. So tons of room, absolutely gobs of room. I could fit like several more bots inside here. There it is. That is what drain Bamage will look like. So pretty happy with that. I'll put the top on here in a second. We'll see just kind of how well it rolls. This thing's going to have a lot of free rolling. It's not going to have any rolling resistance because there's nothing in here to stop it. So anyway, yeah, I think this looks pretty good. I just need to make the piece over here for the LED, figure out where the heck the radio is going to go. But yeah, I think this will work out just fine. So yeah, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the next video. I have a little special thing for you in the next one, and then I'll be wiring this up, getting it running, and we'll kind of see what this drives like. Yeah, as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.